Brought to you by...
Within the world of cinema, filmmakers large and small throughout the ages have aimed to express their artistic vision through the visual art of storytelling. In most cases, we wind up with your standard capable narratives that present a basic premise and lead us to a satisfying and deserved conclusion. However, every now and then we find ourselves faced with something far outside the spectrum of what we would call a standard plot, presented with existential ideas that challenge us to peel back their layers and explore something deeper and far more cerebral. Hello friends, and welcome back to ETF. Kris Salvi is a name that we have come to know well on this channel. He is a local talent that has become somewhat of an icon in his own right, at least within the world of New England independent films, primarily due to his diverse range of acting credits and willingness to explore creativity in ways that most others wouldn't dare. Beyond acting, Kris is a storyteller at heart, having crafted many films of his own. A Woman Under an Inferno Sky being the latest mountain he has chosen to climb. Here he explores the compelling narrative of a woman's journey from the early 1900s to the modern day, following a failed suicide attempt.
We'll meet another day, another time, waiting at the...
Now, that description gives it to you far more directly than what I have witnessed for this review. Once again, this was another film that I was given a rough cut of, so keep that in mind when going into this, as the final version may have altered things in a way that I was not privy to. We are introduced to the world of this story through a quote, burning onto the blackness of the frame like a flame. "And who are you?" she sternly spoke, to the one beneath the smoke. "Why, I'm fire," he replied. This quote was attributed to Leonard Cohen from Joan of Arc. For me, this set the tone of suffering for a woman who has made a grave mistake, one that there is no easy way back from. This to me was the world Salvi was attempting to reveal to us with each stroke of the brush on this wild canvas. He presents a visual feast crafted from the striking symbolic imagery of death, agony, and consequence. I'm going to try and be forefront in stating that this is not a film that I can review in the conventional way that I would any other. Salvi's vision of a fractured narrative makes for a difficult web packed with purpose and meaning that has been quite a feat to try and decipher. Through a cacophony of beautifully captured cinematography and a mashup of musical compositions injected from various sources and unconventionally brought together to surround this one soul displaced in time. His intention seems to be to craft a more mind-expanding exploration of the journey that this woman is taking through her own death. Her choice to self-harm sends her on a spiraling voyage through the circles of damnation, quite similarly to Dante Alighieri's Divine Comedy. For me, there were certain symbolic elements that were quite clear from the get-go. Throughout the film, our protagonist is pursued by a cloaked figure, which very clearly felt like the personification of death, aiming to lead her back to where she belonged. The man that comes to greet her at the cemetery, adorned in black and red, was the effigy of the devil himself. His arrival paved with imagery of violence, self-harm, and death throughout historically violent periods in our society. Even the words he speaks to her can be interpreted in a variety of ways.
Tread softly, your watery eyes. The pangs of your sadness will rise. The flowers of the city seem breath-like, though at times death-like. Though there's no use to deal with the dying in a world where violence is king, I gave them all guns.
The opening lines here, in the literal sense, suggest a gentle release of tears and imply that the act will lead to an intensification of sadness or pain. The imagery of flowers of the sea, being both breath-like and death-like, could symbolize the dual nature of beauty and decay, or the fleeting and often melancholic aspects of life. The passage shifts to a more direct commentary on the state of the world, noting that violence is king. This line suggests that in this world, violence dominates or prevails. The statement, "I gave them all guns," could be a metaphorical way of expressing that the speaker has contributed to or exacerbated the violence in the world, i.e., casting forth his wicked influence onto the souls he wishes to sway from the heavenly light and damn into his dominion. What made this further interesting to me was that these are a retooled version of the opening lines in Bob Dylan's song To Ramona, which in the context of the song act as a beckoning to Ramona, comforting her to the harshness that surrounds us all. This lends so much more to the scene, as we then take this in the context that the devil's coming to collect, as she has committed the ultimate sin in taking her own life. In this moment, she is able to realize who this man is and turn herself away from him. In the end, she winds up back where we found her, what we can only assume as being the place where she died, marked crudely by a makeshift cross. My interpretation of this being that she returned to the place she is meant to be, so that she can freely cross over of her own volition, and not spend eternity under damnation for her mistakes. I'd like to wrap this up by stating that when it comes to the intended meanings behind this film, I cannot speak for Salvi's ultimate vision. I can only deliver you my thoughts and interpretations, based on what has been presented to me. I can tell you that Salvi presented us with something wholly his own, drawing inspiration from a variety of sources, both in reality and theology. He delivers us a visual manifesto of torment, artistically expressed through a blending of visual techniques and motifs that he feels best illustrate the core of his concept. As for his intentions, I honestly may never fully understand. Well, friends, that's gonna be all for now. As always, take my opinion for what it's worth, but more importantly, I urge you to formulate your own. Unfortunately, this film is not yet released, but once it has been, I will be linking it into the description of this video. Until next time, stay safe, and as always, thanks for watching.